Hello wonderful people, welcome to the second part of my tutorial in Excel. In this part, what we'll be learning is Excel formulas and then functions. If you are new to Excel and you haven't checked the part 1 of this tutorial, please do so. It will take you through all the most basic aspects of Excel, and by the time you are done, you should be able to do most of the basic stuffs so that you can join this tutorial. I'll put the link in the description so you can check it. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so and then like the video. Alright, so we will be going through, I'll be introducing you to Excel formulas. We'll be learning range, cell referencing, Excel charts, tables, functions, and then I have some mini projects for you. So let's begin. What is an Excel formula? A formula in Excel is simply an expression that operates on values in a range of cells or a cell. And on a mathematical point of view, it is simply the process of performing calculations. So a formula is simply the art of, let's say, putting your own calculations together and then telling Excel to use that calculations to perform certain operations for you. We will jump into the practical aspects very soon. What is a range? A range is simply a rectangular box of selected cells. So if you select more than one cell, you are getting a range. And range is named by using the cell in the upper left corner and the cell in the lower left corner. We also get into the practical aspect so that you can understand this as well. So to select a range, you just drag across the cells that you want in your range. So how do you enter a formula in Excel? There are two ways to enter a formula in Excel. The first way is by entering the actual values, and the second way is by entering the cell references. Okay, so let's try both methods. Let's say we have some data here. So let's call this data some data. All right, and then we have 10, 20, 30. We are going to use both methods to calculate for the totals for this data. First, let's use the method of inputting the actual values. So what we do is before you enter a formula in Excel, you need to press the equal sign. The equal sign simply tells Excel that anything that follows is a formula. If you fail to press the equal sign, Excel will treat it as a text. So we press the equal sign and then we enter the actual values, which is the first method. So 10 plus 20 plus 30. And when we press enter, that should give us 60, which is the totals for this data. Next, we are going to use cell referencing. To use cell referencing, we simply have to press equal sign. Instead of entering the actual values, we can simply enter the cell names. All right, so we can enter A8 plus A9 plus A10. Then we can press enter and then we get 60. So we get 60 for both, but which method is most preferable? Usually you have to use the cell referencing. Why? Because when you update your data, the actual values will not be updated. You enter the values manually, so it will not be updated. So let's update 20 to 30. So we should have 80 as our totals. We press enter and only the cell referencing values updated. The actual values will never update unless you manually update them here. The next thing is we are going to learn how we can enter data, how to enter a formula, how we can copy a formula, how we can edit, and then the autofill functionality in Excel. We will also learn how you can hide a formula. Back in Excel, to enter a formula, you simply have to select a cell. And then what you do is you can either double click and then enter whatever formula that you want. So we can say equal this cell plus this cell. Then we press enter. That is one way of entering a formula. You can also use the formula bar up here by just clicking inside the formula bar. You click in the formula bar, you can see that it's active. You can now type whatever formula that you want. Whichever is preferable to you, you can use. And then to edit a formula, you simply have to use the same two methods. As you enter, you can edit them in any way that you want. So we can simply add these two numbers. Alright, and then if we don't need A8, you just press the back button. You simply bring your mouse there and then you can delete it and then add whatever value that you want to it. So that works too. Then I spoke about range when I started. What I said is a range is selecting more than one cell. If you select more than one cell, you get a cell range. So let's select this. What is the name of this cell? The name of this cell is cell B3. But if we select more than one, you can see we have multiple selection, and that gives us a range. So how will Excel name this range? Excel will pick the first cell at the upper left corner and then the last cell at the lower right corner. So at the upper left, this is cell B3 and then this is cell D6. So the name of this range will be B3 and then D6. So that's how Excel names range. Alright, we also learn the autofill functionality and then how we can copy a formula in Excel. So this is how the autofill functionality works. Let's say we have 50 here, and then we need 50 across this up to this point. What we do is we can just point it here, and then when you bring your mouse here, then it changes to this black plus button. You can simply press and then hold the left mouse button and then drag it, and then you get 50. If you don't want the numbers in this way, and then you want a certain sequential form of numbers, maybe 1 2 3 4 5, something like that, you can simply type the first two digits, you select both, then you can drag it, and then Excel will automatically pick the pattern. That is the autofill functionality. Alright, so where do you find formulas in Excel? Excel has a tab for formulas, and then when you come there, you can simply find all the formulas in Excel. Any formula that you want, you can find it there. There are also functions there, but we haven't got into functions yet. When we get there, we will learn them. So just like I told you, the equal sign is always used when using a formula. That's the first thing that you should do. So when a formula name performs a particular function. Alright, so when you are writing a formula, this is the format for a formula. An equal sign must come first, the formula name will come, then the argument will come. Alright, you can also call it a function if you want. It's usually interchangeable and it's related. So the first thing that we do when we are writing a formula is an equal sign, or a function is an equal sign, then the name of the function or the name of the formula, then we bring an equal sign and then we pass the arguments inside. So what is an argument? An argument is simply, it can be a criteria, it can be a range of cells, it can be a cell, it can be a value. We will get to that, and then when we get there, we'll learn them. So first of all, let me demonstrate to you how the sum function or how the sum formula works so that you have an idea So let's say we want to add these three values and we want to add them here. If we are using a formula, we can simply say equal sum. We open a bracket. Then, just like I told you, the arguments can accept a range of cells, so we can simply copy the range, press enter, and then we have our total. So these are the basic formulas in Excel: the count function, the sum function, the minimum function, the maximum function, the average function, the if function, which is a conditional statement. We will get there. It's a very important function in Excel. We also have the concatenate function and then the countif function. So how does the count function works? Let's say we want to count the values here. All we have to do is say equal count, and then immediately Excel suggests a formula for you. You can simply press the tab so that it will auto complete it for you. Then we can select this range, close our bracket, press enter, and then it counts the number of values we have here for us. The next thing, I've already demonstrated the sum, so let's check the next formula. We have count, minimum, maximum, and then average. So minimum, we simply say equal minimum. Minimum is represented by MIN. You don't type the full minimum. You open the brackets, you select the range, close the brackets, you press enter, and then you have the minimum value. So let me insert a column here so that's so this is the sum, this is the minimum, so maximum, average. All right, so if you need the maximum, simply equal sign max, then we find the maximum. You press enter and the maximum is 30. If I update this to 50, we get 50 as the maximum, and you can see our sum auto updated. We can also find the average the same way. We just press equal sign, we copy this, and it finds sorry, I didn't bring a brackets. So Excel is giving me a warning. So let me bring the brackets, press enter, not working. Equal average, all right, tab. Then we select the range. Then we have our average. We are also going to use the if function, the concatenate function, and then the countif function. So let's say if here, concatenate here, then the count if. So let's clear all this data. So let's say we want to, this is scores for certain students. All right, so let's say students here, the first student name is Rex, then Jane, and then Do. Let's separate this. All right, so let's say we want to calculate for those who have failed and those who have passed, and then let's set the pass mark as 35. Then let's set above 35 and above, and then below 35 is failed, below 35. So this can just be passed, that's fine. Right, so to check for these two criteria, what we use is the if function, and this is how the if function works. If we press equal if and then we open the bracket, you can see that Excel has already given you an idea how this formula works. So it says logical test. What do we want to test? So what we want to test is we want to check if this column right here, this cell right here, okay, the first cell, which is the scores, we want to check if the scores here is greater than, all right, or equal to 35. And then if we check and then it's greater than or equal to 35, let's press. If we are done with the criteria, the logical test, you can press comma so that we can check for the first value if the value is true. So the value if true simply means what value should we have here if this logical test is true. So the value we want to have here is pass. So to put a string in a formula, you have to put it in double quotes. So we get our double quotes and then we say pass, then comma, and then what value should we have if it is false. All right, and if it's not above, greater than, or equal to 35, then obviously it is less than 35, so we can simply say fail. Then we close our brackets, we press enter, and then we have pass for rex. So let's just cut this formula and then put it here so that it can be simple for us. So what we can do now is, so let me go through the logical test again. We wrote our if function, then we open the brackets, B8, which is the scores that we are testing for. So we are checking rex scores, which is in cell B8. If it is greater than or equal to 35, if it's greater than or equal to 35, then we are done with our logical test. So if it's greater than or equal to 35, then what should happen? What should happen goes into the value if true. And what do we want to happen? We want to say pass. And then what if that doesn't happen? Then we want to say fail. So that is our if function. So we can simply press enter and then it passed. So let me use the autofill. That is one most useful. Next of the autofill, you can simply autofill your formula and then it will Excel will automatically apply it to the other fields for you. So it says fail for Jane. So what if Jane's score is now 60? Then Jane passed. What if though score is 80? Then passed. Alright. So what if we say Rex is now 20? Then Rex failed. So we now have to use the concatenate function and then the countif function. So let's say we have two names, Jane and then Doe. And then this is the first name and this is the surname. Alright, and then we want the full name here. What we do is we use the concatenate function so that we can get both names in the same cell. So we can simply say equal concatenate, and then there is the first text, alright, and there is the second text. So I can simply say let me do it this way so that it will be clear. This is the first text, which is E14, comma, then let me select the second text. Then I can close my brackets, press enter, and then you can see we have Jendu. But as you can see, there is no space in there, so we have to add a space. To add a space, we simply have to pass it as an argument. So we can simply pass an empty space right here, two double quotes, just the double quotes there without anything, any string inside. I told you, if you can remember, that if you want to pass a string in a formula, you need to use double quotes. So what string do you have to pass here? A space. We simply put a space in there and then we have a space here. So we are going to use the count if functionality as well. So what is the count if functionality? The count if functionality is used to count something if it satisfies a certain criteria. So let's try that out. So let's say we want to all right, let's try it. Count if, so which range we want to test for? All right, the range we want to test for is this range. And then what criteria do we want to use? Let's use this as our criteria, then let's see what happens. Sorry. We want to check if someone failed. All right, so we should count. If there is a fail in there, then we would like to count. So let's say we want to check through this range right here, and then if there is a fail, we pass the fail in there as an argument. And then if there is a fail, it counts for you. All right, we can simply do the same for pass, and then it will give us the number of passes. We are going to use all these during our mini projects, so don't worry. We will use most of these functionalities, and we are going to build a very nice looking awesome project. So cell referencing. There are two cell referencing in Excel. We have the absolute cell referencing and the relative cell referencing. So what is an absolute cell referencing? Let's all right, let's start with the relative cell referencing. Relative cell referencing, the rows and column references can change when you copy the formula to another cell because the references are actually offset from the current row and column. By default, Excel creates relative cell referencing. So what this simply means is if you have a formula here, let's say there is a formula, and then what we did is we made reference to this cell when writing this formula. So when we autofill right here, what Excel does is it uses reference cell reference relative cell referencing to automatically change the cell names. So let's say although we entered only this cell, when we autofilled, when we check here, we will see that Excel changed it to B9. We had B8 here, now we have B9. That is relative cell referencing. All right, when we talk of an absolute cell referencing, the rows and columns do not change when you copy, or when you autofill, the rows and columns do not change. So what you do is to have an absolute cell referencing, you need to add the dollar sign. So how do you add the dollar sign? You can simply press your F4 on your keyboard, and then Excel will add the dollar sign to your cell name. All right, so we press enter. We can now drag it here, and you can see it has all changed to fail. Why? Because B8 did not change. It is an absolute cell referencing, and it doesn't change, so it did not change. All right, we will use all these concepts in our mini projects, so take notes. So what is a chart? A chart is simply a visual representation of numerical values, and also a table in its simplest form can be used to group and structure similar or related data in Excel. Let's check out charts. So to use a chart in Excel, you can simply go to insert, and then you have charts here. So you have a lot of options. You can use this as your chart as well. And then Excel is so brilliant. Immediately we have not done anything, but immediately we select this, Excel automatically generates a chart for us using this data right here. All right, we will get more into this when building the project. So a table is the same way. You go to insert, and then if you want to turn this data into a table, you simply go to insert, you highlight it, you click on table, and then we have headers in our table. So you make sure this is checked, you press OK, and it turns into a table. So these are our two mini projects. We are going to have a store project, just a small project for recording items in a store, and then you have a grading project for students. Right, so this is how our projects will look like at the end of the day. So this is the first project, which is the store projects. As you can see, it simply lists store items. Uh, it lists the categories. You have the cost price, you have the profit, and then it calculates the price before taxation. It adds taxation, and then we get the selling price. And you can see we have a nice looking chart here. We have our taxes here so that you can change them anytime you want. We have the name of our store here. We have a nice looking logo here, and you can see it all looks cool. All right, this is our next project, which is the student grading system. I don't know why I named it Nico, but I think I just like the name. All right, so we can have the student's name here. We are going to enter all this data and then make sure we do all the calculations and then everything, and then I'll generate the charts at the end of the day. So stay tuned. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so, and then click the like button. Alright, so let's start building our projects. So first, we are gonna clear everything. Just delete. I'm simply going to delete this. Now, I'm simply going to delete the sheet so that I don't get. I said it. I don't want to get any problems in the future. So let's explore what we'll be building. So this is a summary or the output of what we'll be building at the end of the day. We have a nice looking logo here. We have the name of our store. This is item catalog. We have our taxes here, and then this is the total tax. This is our profit margin or our profit percentage. And then what we have here is the item, the list of items. We have the categories here. We have the cost price, the profit, and then we do the calculation, and then we get the price before taxation. We add the tax, and then we get our selling price. And you can see we have a nice looking chart here to visually represent what we have done here. And then also at the category section, you can see we have some drop down here using some data validation stuffs, which we will get into. We also have this cool project called students grading system. All right, so this is just simply used to check students grades, and you can see it's all looking nice. We have the subjects and then the grades. We have the grade range here. We have the actual grades here. I made this is made so dynamically that it's difficult to even mess stuff up. You make any change and then it reflects everywhere. So let's say all right, so it also gives you the statistics for all the courses here, and then a nice looking chart here at the end. So let's start with the store project. So I'm going to open a blank or a new Excel sheet. All right, and then we are going to follow this and then produce the same thing here. All right, so let me drag this here and then have this here. Then split my screen into two so that I can see. All right. All right, so the first thing that I'm going to do is to work on my data. All right, so we're gonna have the item category, the category section, the cost section, the profit before tax section. So let's start from cell A8. We have item, category, cost price, profit, profit before taxation, before tax, and we have our tax, and then we have our selling price. Now this should be price before taxation, price before taxation. So I made a mistake here. It's supposed to be price before taxation. So we have this. Now what we can do is we can simply copy our items and then paste them there. So I'm going to paste them at actual value so that I won't have the formattings included. Then we have the provision section. So how do we get the provision sections? We use the data validation. You can see we have some drop down here. All right. So I'm going to use the data validation. Data validation, simply get it by going to data, and then it seems stuffs have collapsed before because of the screen size. Data validation. All right, let me increase the size. Okay, I have data validation here, so I can change this to list, and I have provisions. I have electronics, and then what else? I have furniture. I don't. Okay, I don't need these spaces. And I simply press OK. So I can see that, you can see that now I have them here. All right. So the next thing that we are going to do is to calculate for the to check for our cost price. The cost price will be entered by us, so we won't be doing anything. We just need to make sure we check the currency. Let's see. All right. So let me enter 20 and then see it works perfectly. All right, so the profit will be, our profit calculation will come from the percentage of profit that we choose to make. So let's check our profit percentage. Yeah, so cell C4, you can have our profits, and then the percentage here is 10%. So let's change this first to percentage, and then we can type in 10, and then we have our percentage. All right, so the next thing that's we're gonna do is the profit. So the profit calculation is simply going to be our profit margin on the cost price. All right, so that is how we choose to calculate our profit. So we are charging the profits on the cost price and not the selling price. All right, please make sure whatever you are using this concept for, you understand how you apply the charges, and then you simply apply the concepts here. So we have equal cost price multiplied by our profit percentage. All right, and that should give us our profit. And then the profit, so let's input something here. Let's say 20. All right, so that we can get some output here. So what is our price before tax? Our price before tax simply will be the cost price equal this cost price. We add it to this profit. All right, and then we should get our profit before taxation, and then we calculate for our tax. So we have two tax components, tax 1 and then tax 2. And so this is tax 1, and then we have tax 2. Tax 2. All right, so we have our total tax here as well. So tax 1 components, let me change all these to percentage. You simply do that by highlighting and pressing percentage. So this is 15%, 20%, and then 35. Sorry, it has to be automatic. All right, so let me simply use, you can simply use the sum function, or I can simply say this plus this, and then we get our total. All right, so we are done with the profits, the tax aspects, and then all we can now do is let me check from here. yeah, we calculate our tax on the price before tax. Right, so we can simply say equal this price multiplied by our total tax, which is this. Press enter, and then we have our tax. Right, and then we need to calculate for the price after tax, the price after tax, or the selling price. This is the price we'll be selling to our customers. So to do that, we simply need to add the tax to the price before taxation. So we simply do equal this plus this. All right, we enter, and then it looks great. Okay, so our data is coming together. We are putting things together one after the other. So what we can do is I'll simply copy the categories here so that we don't waste much time on them, and then paste them here. Now let me paste them as values so that I don't get I'm not all right. Let me delete them first. I'm not getting my data validation there. So the next thing that we can now do is I want to autofill all these. I want to autofill everything. So what I can simply do is I can simply drag this here and then autofill from here. All right, I can do that. Or I can simply create a table from this by pressing this, going to tables, and then I can simply create a table here. All right, so let's try that and see. No, it's added some columns. We don't want that. So let's simply autofill this so that we can get our values. All right. So immediately I autofilled, you can see we are having a lot of problems. A whole lot of problems. We have some values, we have some wrong values, some profits are not calculating. We are having a whole bunch of issues. Why are we having issues? Because of the difference between absolute and then relative cell referencing. All right, so here instead of uh, instead of using absolute cell referencing, we are using relative cell referencing for some sections in our document. So that is why we are having these issues. So how do we correct this? We have our cost price here, all right, and then our profit is supposed to be this 10% multiplied by this cost price. But what happens is immediately we autofill, Excel automatically copies the formula here, and then it picks the next cell here, which is cell D5. All right, we want D4 and we want it to be fixed. We don't want it to copy the next cell. So the next cell has nothing, so obviously we get nothing. All right, so let's make all those corrections and then we can get accurate values. So you need to take absolute and then relative cell referencing seriously so that when doing calculations, you don't get incorrect values. All right, so how do we fix that? We simply come to cell D4 and then we press the F4 key so that it asks the dollar sign and you can see it's highlighted. We press enter and then we still have 2, but don't worry, immediately we do autofill, you can see it's all our values are correct now. Now we have price before taxation. Price before taxation is simply this plus this to get this. So we don't have any issue with that. We still want the relative cell referencing. Then we do our tax calculations here. Our tax, we also have a fixed tax cell here. We don't need it to move each step whenever we do the autofill. So what we have to do is we add the dollar sign so that it becomes an absolute cell referencing. All right, so let's go to B6 here and then we press F4 and then it adds the dollar sign, we press enter and then we still have our value. So the selling price is simply this plus this. Now let's do it again. All right, drag it here and then you can see now we have correct value. So that is the importance of knowing cell referencing. All right, so our table is coming together one after the other. So what we want to do now is All right, we want to turn this right here, all these cells right here, into a table. Why do we need a table? The table is important because Excel, it makes things easier for us. When we have a table, Excel automatically grabs things because they are all grouped together. Excel knows this is a group of data, and then we are working with them. And whenever we need to generate or do anything, Excel knows this is the data we are referring to. So how do we do that? We can simply copy the data, and then we can do it from here. Just click this sign here, go to tables, and then we can generate a table out of it. All right, and then you can simply see the preview, a preview of the table. So we can do it from here, or we can go to insert, we click on tables, then it asks us if this is the range that we are going to use, and if also our table has headers. If we check it, yes, then it will use the first row as the header. If we uncheck it, then it's going to pick our whole table as a data, which we don't want. Our data obviously have headers, so we press OK, and then it generates the table for us. All right, so we have now generated our table. What if we enter data after generating the table? Then what happens? We have mobile phones. Let's say we have an airport, and immediately we press enter, you can see Excel added another line here. So it means whenever we add another data, Excel will automatically extend the table for us as we add the data. So we can simply complete this in electronics. Cost price, let's set this to 15. All right, and then we have this. Let me check my cost prices here. I think there is something. This is all right. So now let me copy all my cost price. Yeah, this cost price was generated from the automatic or the autofill. So we can simply paste the original cost price here. So let me paste up to 18. So let me paste it as values, and immediately it reflects. All right, and then there's our profit, our price before taxation, our tax, and then simply our selling price. So let's see if we have any issues. We can see that our selling price totals are the same. All right, so let's do the totals here. So to do the totals, how can we perform the totals? We can simply go to formulas, go to auto sum. Let's go to auto sum. Let's sum it up. No, we don't need it there. Okay, we can simply place the active cell where we need the totals, and then press this sum button, and then it will simply sum it for us. All right, so this is the sum, the table total row. We can do it like this. All right, so we have our totals here. All right, so whenever we press the tab here, it will add another line for us. We can enter all the data we need. Press the tab, we can get another one, but I don't need those, so I'll just simply delete them. All right, so our table is coming together. Now we are done with all the calculations. All we have to do is just perform uh, a few stuffs up here, and then it will look nicer for us. So we have Nico store, then we have item catalog here. Right, so we are done with that, and then we can simply change this color to this. Right, and then we have a different shade here. Our text color should also be changed to white so that it will pop up nicely. We can increase and then bolden it. Then we change the Alright, this should work. Let's drag it here small. Let me check the text color. It's also white. So white will do. Now we change these colors as well. Touch 1, touch 2, we change the colors to this. Right, then we change this color to our first shade of green. I'm simply using different shades of green so that we can have a nicely blended colors. Alright, so this is also a different shade of green. Obviously, this should do. And we have our profit also as a separate shade of green. Our profit is a little up to the top there, but let's just delete this column and then it should be fine. I'm not finding it, but I think this should be fine. Let's simply use that across. Alright, so I can simply differentiate this with them by using the border, the thick border around them, and then let me see if there is anything else. I can also add some borders here to make it also look nicely. Then the profits as well. Alright, I think it looks great. It's not the same, but it looks great. Take borders around them again and see. Alright, so it's looking great. So we can now import our logo. You remember how to import a logo? You simply go to insert and then we are using the green logo. So let's resize it and then reposition it. It should be fine now. Now we want to change the color of our table, and then you can click any parts of the table. Then to do that, you simply go to design and you can have different designs that you can apply. Alright, so let's look for the specific design that I used. I think this design also looks good, but it's not the design that I used. Let's try this. Yeah, I think this is it. Then let me use this shade of green for my header. This looks no. Let me simply pick this table so that I don't get to do a lot of work. Alright, I think this is it. So you can see I have some spaces. The spacing is very nicely, it's nicely spaced out, so we can simply do that by simply copying the data. Go to your home. Alright, you go to formats, you click on row height, and then let's change this to, let's say, 30. And then you can see we have nicely spaces, but it's too big, so let me do 25. Still too big, so let me do 20. Alright, I think 20 works. Alright, so we have our data and you can see it's all coming together. The logo is a little too big. You can see it's all coming together and looking nicely. Alright, so the next thing is we perform the totals for all these, and I only performed for this. So all that we can do is we can simply copy all these, go to formulas, and then auto sum, we click this, and then it will perform the totals for us. It's as simple as that. If you want to perform the averages, you click this, you press average, it performs the averages for you, but we need the sum, so we select the sum. Alright. So let's use this space right here. Alright, so this is fine. Now the next thing is for us to generate our charts, which should be very easy since we already have a table and everything in place. All our data is looking nicely. I only hope our figures are correctly calculated. I'm sure it is. All right, so to generate a chart, we can simply copy the table or click anywhere in the table, go to insert, then we choose the kind of chart that we want. So here I will be using this bar charts. All right, and then let's use this first one. So we click it and then we have a nice looking bar chart. So we can simply edit it in, we have some predefined editings for it, and then formattings that will make it look nice, and you can use this. It looks great, you can use it. So let's click this and see what we have. We can also use this. All right, so I'll keep this, and then this looks good. So what I'm gonna do is I'm simply gonna change the color of the charts. All right, so you go to design here, right here, design tab, you go to change colors, then you can simply change the theme colors for the charts. All right, so I'll go with this. Let me see, I think I should go with this. All right, this should be fine. Then we go to home, and then I can simply change the fill color so that I get a nice looking chart. All right, this looks good. And then the text color, let's see if white looks nicer. Yeah, but all right, let's maintain this same grayish color. All right, so I'm gonna zoom out my screen, and then we're gonna place it nicely on the side, and then all right, so you can see our data is looking very nice. Let me stretch this a little. Okay, so we have our charts, and now you can see it's all looking good. Let me space this out just a little by just going to format, row height. Let's make this 35 and see. Still too big. Let's make it 25. All right, 25 is nice. So we can simply drag this here, and you can see that we have a nice looking chart. So what this chart does is it simply I misspelled category here. So category. All right, and immediately I make the corrections, it reflects on the chart. So this chart it's simply representing the stuffs that we have here. We have our category, we have our item, we have the cost price, the profit, the price before tax. And then what you can note is we don't need category here because category here cannot be translated into something numerical. Remember that charts represent numbers, and category here cannot represent a number because it's not a number, it's just a text simply telling us the category of our items. So what we can do is we can just right click, you select this element right here. All right, you know there are different elements in each of them. So you can, this is the chart title. Here we can edit our charts. So let's check the title of our charts so that we can edit it as such. Okay, item summary. So we can simply change this to item summary. All right, so let's select this, then we right click, and then we go to select data, and then what we are going to do is we are going to uncheck the category section. All right, we press OK, and then we will no more have category because we don't need it. Again, we don't need the item. I forgot to uncheck it, so let's go back and then uncheck it because we don't need it. We only need the values. So the cost price, the profit, the price before tax, the taxation, and the selling price. All right. So I think this looks good. All right, so let me do something quickly here. I'm going to change all the values here from 1 to 10. I'm going to change them to the values on the item section. All right, I don't want to display this 1 to 10 here. I want to display the values on the item section. So what I'm simply going to do is I'm simply going to select that horizontal axis. Let's see. Okay, we select it and then we right click and then you go to select data. All right, let me close this. You go to select data and then at the horizontal axis right here, what you have to do is click on edit and then whatever values you have in there, you can simply go ahead and delete it and then copy. Yeah, and then just copy the rows here. After copying it, you click on OK. You can see it has already reflected here. Then you can simply click on OK. Let's add the total. Let's add the total as well. All right, so we click on OK, and then we can see that we have our data displayed nicely. All right, so that's how you also do that. All right, let's click OK once again. All right. All right, guys, this will be the end of this session. We'll be moving into the next session very quickly. And if you have any suggestions, if you think there is something we should add, please kindly put all those suggestions in the comment section. I will make sure I address all of them. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please do so and also click the like button. All right, so we are going to start working on our NICO International School project. It is simply a grading system project, but I decided to extend it and then add the statistics as well as a chart. And then we have a nice grading system. Why do we need grading system? We will get there. This project is developed so dynamically such that you don't have to do things manually in any way. Any single change you make is very dynamic. You will see what I'm talking about immediately we start building the project. So first of all, I'll take you through the project and then you will know what I have done here. So the first thing is you can see we have a nice logo right here. We have the text, these two text here with nice background colors. We have a table right here with data at the name section, index number, and then everywhere. All right, so basically what we are doing is we have the various courses and then the grades scored by each student for each of these courses. All right, so let me click on this grade right here and then there is 75. You can see 75 here. When I click on grade here, it is B, but you can't see anything here. It's not, there is no B here because I didn't type it manually. It's auto-generated by the formula and you can't see the formula because I've hidden and then logged it. So basically you cannot make any change there. How do we know I'm not just making stuff up and then there is indeed a formula here because we can't see it. All right, let's just change this grade to 80. Change it to 80 and you can see dynamically it has changed. My chart has changed. My statistics has changed. All right, so let's revert it back to 76 or something. All right, and you can see dynamically they have changed. So what I did was I have hidden and logged all the formulas, so no one can make changes except with a password. All right, so that is what is going on here. And then don't worry, I will unlock it. We will build this formula from scratch. So basically I created a grading system here and then whatever I did here, I used an if function to calculate these formulas. There is another way to do that by using the VLOOKUP function. I'll do that in another video, so check the description and then this video's description, and then you'll find the link there. I'm also all right, so let's continue with the project. So basically this is the grading system and then there is the range from 80 to 100. it's an A from 70 to 79, it's a B from 60 to 69, it's a C. And then what I did was I've logged all these sections, so no changes can be made here. All right, we don't need anyone to make changes to our range except someone who is authorized to do so. We don't need any change here unless the person is authorized, and whoever is authorized has the password to this worksheet. I'll show you how you can do all that. And then also we have the statistics here, this English right here. Here we have grade A, and then we have 3 because we have 3 students having grade A in English. All right, so when we come to English here, we can check for the number of A's. We have 1, 2, 3. So when we change this to 80 and then we get an A, you can see automatically it updates to 4. All right, so every single value here is automated. They are all generated dynamically. We don't need to touch it, and immediately you try to edit anything, it gives you a warning because we don't need it to go there. The only thing you can edit are the scores, and immediately any change is made, it reflects on the charts. So we are going to build all these concepts from the ground up. All right, so let's get started. So again, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please do so and then click the like button. All right, it will go a long way to help me create videos like this. So first of all, I'll press Ctrl N to open a new Excel workbook. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open it side by side so that we can check this as our preview whilst we create. So I'll just drag this here so that I can get enough space to fit my project. I'm zooming in so that you can see every single thing that I do. Right, so the first thing obviously is we have a logo here, and then we have this text here, Nico International School. So let's start with that. Then we have students, results. Then we have a logo here. We have our table headers here as well. So what I'm gonna do is I'm simply gonna copy the table headers and then paste them. I don't want to manually type them. All right, so what I'm gonna do right now is paste them as values so that I don't have any references back to this table. After copying them, I'm simply gonna copy my data. Let me just copy this first data right here. I'm also gonna paste that as values. All right, so we are gonna start working on our formula. All right, so we start with the formula for English, and you can see with the headings, the heading for the grades are not the same. It's basically a very bad practice to name your column headers same with the same name. It's very bad. You don't need to do that. Sometimes it's difficult when Excel is naming your columns, so you need to make sure they are all distinct, and then you don't get any issues when your data becomes big and then you try to work on complicated stuffs. All right, so make sure you keep it distinct. You can do it English grade here. You can simply write English grade here, it will work. Math grade here, science grade, but I simply just decided to go with this. All right, so let's start with the formula to calculate our grades. But first of all, let me first define the structure for calculating the grades. So this is the structure for calculating the grades. Let me try and copy that if it will work. All right, it works, and let me paste it here as values. All right, so yeah, so basically I have my grades here. Let me shift them here so that it will look nicely. All right, so I have my grades here. So what are we going to do? What we will do is we are simply going to check for a range between this, and then we give the person this A. All right, and then we will check for this range, and then we give the person a B. This range give the person a C. This range gives the person a D. But how do we check for this? We have two ways. You can have more than two ways, but basically these are the two most popular ways of doing this. You can use VLOOKUP, just like I said before. I will do a video on that. I don't want this video to be extremely long, so I will do a video on that and then put it in the description. You can check it, and then you can also use the if function. Basically, if you use the if function, you have a lot of control of your data. You have a lot of control over the logics, and you can add any other logic that you want. That is why I want to stick with the if function in this tutorial. All right, so let me zoom out a little so that I get enough space for to see my data. All right, so we start by entering the equal symbol, and then you know what the equal symbol does. All right, it simply means we are going to enter a formula. So what formula are we going to enter? Is the if formula or the if function. So we simply start writing our logical test. So what will be the logical test here? We want to test that whatever score we have in this cell right here under English, whatever score we have under English, if it is in between 80 and then 100, then we give a grade A. All right, and then whatever score we have in between 70 and 79, we give a grade B. All right, so first of all, I could simply just write the formula, finish everything, but let me just create a table first. Let me create a table out of this data first before I enter my formula. So I simply copy these two rows, go to insert, then I can select table, and then my table has headers because these are my headers, and then I click OK, and I get a very nice, good looking table. So I can start working with this table. All right, so let me enter a score in English. Let me say 75. All right, and then let's see. So let's start working on our formula. So equal if bracket open, and then we are going to write our logical test. And as I said, we are going to check for this range, and then if this range, the criteria for this range is fulfilled, then we give the person an A. If the criteria for this is fulfilled, we give the person a B. All right, so we start with yes, our logical test, which is we check for C6, cell C6. So if cell C6 is greater than or equal to 80, then we give the person an A. All right, what you can also do is you can simply instead of typing C6, you can simply click here, but it will pick it as English. So when you are done and you are copying the formula to the other places, it will be very difficult, and then I just prefer to use the cell name so that the data can dynamically change, and then I'll have much control over what I do. All right, so I will simply say C6. I prefer it this way. You can also do it the way that I just showed you. I just prefer it this way. All right, so if C6 is greater than or equal to 80, or you can also say if C6 is greater than 79, all right, it's still the same thing. And then what do we want to check for? If it's greater than or equal to 80, then we give the person an A. All right, and then let me use this opportunity to introduce you to a nested if. A nested if is simply having an if statement inside an if statement. Here we are checking for more than one conditional statement, so we are going to use a nested if. So we have our first if, we are going to nest more ifs into this if. All right, so let's type if bracket open, and then we can check for the next logical test, and which is C6 is greater than or equal to 70 right here. All right, then we give the person a B. Okay, so let me just complete my function right here. I'm gonna demonstrate something to you, and then we will continue with the rest of the formula, which is from C to F. So let's put in the value if false as F. All right, close the brackets, close another bracket, and one quick tip: when you are closing brackets, if you have about 7 or 8 brackets, just make sure the last bracket is black. If it's black, then it's the last bracket. All right, so we press enter and then we have a B. So let's say we get 80 here, we have an A, so our formula is working very well. But I don't want our formula to be this way. Why? Because this is not dynamic enough. All right, let's say we have grade A here. Sometime in the future, Nico International School decides to change the grading system, all right, and decides to make it 85 here for an A. Then we have 80 here. This student is having an A. All right, what happens then? Then it means we have to do all this program all over again. All right, it means we have to perform all the calculations, we have to perform all the program, we have to write the entire program all over again. But we don't want that. We want it to change dynamically. All right, in reality, previous grades and scores will correspond to those grading system. All right, but what we are trying to do here is we are trying to make the whole data dynamic, so that when we bring new data in here and then we update our grading system, it will perfectly fit or be right for each other. So we are going to alter our formula to make sure it is dynamic to this grading system, and then whatever change goes on in this grading system affects our formula. All right, so let me change this back to 80, and then this is what we are going to do. All right, instead of cell, we have cell C6 here, which is fine. It is dynamic already, but I want to avoid as much values as possible. I want to avoid as much values as possible and rather use cell referencing instead of values. So instead of 80, we rather use the cell name for 80. All right, so that in future when we change 80 to a different number, it will pick whatever value is in the cell name and not the value itself that we have keyed in here. So let's change this 80 to this cell name, which is L3. All right, so this is how you dynamically present your formulas. All right, so whenever the data here or the value here changes to 90, it updates automatically. That is very, very perfect for this exercise. All right, so we change it to L3, and then we have an A here. We don't want a manual A. We don't want to key in an A ourselves, so we can pick this this cell right here. All right, cell N3. Okay, and then if C6 is greater than or equal to 70, which is this, then we want to put in a B. All right, so we have a B here, and then if all of them fail, then we want to put in an F. So let's press enter. All right, and then we have an A here. So let's say we change this A, getting an A from 80 to 100 to let's say 90 to 100. All right, we press enter and automatically the person has a B. All right, that is because the range is now between, in our formula, the range has now changed from 70 to 79 for a B to 70 to 90, because we have changed this automatically. So what will happen is if we do everything for this grading system, it all becomes dynamic. All right, so let's change this back to 80, and then what we are going to do again is we have 80 here. Let's change this to let's say 85, and then let's change this to 85. 85 gives you an A already, but let's change this to let's change this grade to a B. All right, and then see what happens. You can see automatically my grade changes to B. So you can use this concept to dynamically generate whatever data that you want, so that you don't have to go back and forth with your data and then mess them up. All right, so you build your application or you build your Excel project to be scalable at the long run. Okay, so these are some of the basic concepts that you can use for such an exercise. Okay, so here we also have another problem. If we want to calculate values for subsequent cells, we are going to have a problem because we are using a relative cell name for cell L3. Okay, we don't want this value to change irrespective. Whatever cell we are in, we don't want this value to change. So we have to make sure we make this an absolute cell referencing instead of a relative cell referencing. Let me just demonstrate that. All right, let me just autofill it up to this point. All right, and then we have 0, 0. Let me just say 85 here. Let me change this 70 to 79, 80 to an A. All right, you can now see we have 85 here, 85 here, but one is an A and one is a B. Why? Because immediately we use the autofill. Excel by default uses the relative cell referencing. So it automatically changed the cell name for cell L3, which is this 80, to cell L4, which is 70. All right, so you are gonna have a lot of errors if you don't take care of how you choose between relative and then absolute cell referencing. So let's change this. Let me remove this. I don't need that. Let me simply delete it. I don't need it. All right, and then what I can do is I can change this to an absolute cell referencing. Cell L3 to, I can simply do that by pressing the F4 button. It will put a $sign before the L and after the L. All right, now we have our absolute referencing. So anything we will reference in this grading system, we want it to be absolute and not relative. So N3 should also be absolute, so you press F4 and then it becomes absolute. All right, and then if C6 is greater than or equal to L4, which should also be absolute, and then N4 should also be absolute. So we can just delete from this section and then continue with our formula. So we nest in another if, and then the logical test is if cell C6 again is greater than or equal to cell equal to 60, then equal to 60, then we press the F4 to make sure it becomes absolute. Then what do we want to do? If it's equal to 60, then we want to give the person a C. All right, you make it absolute. Don't forget to make these absolute values or you will keep getting errors. All right. So the next thing is to nest in another if, and then say if this cell C6 is greater than or equal to 50, which is an absolute value, then we want to give the person a D. All right, also an absolute value. Then we want to check if cell C6 is greater than or equal to 40. Then I'm doing something wrong. I think I didn't nest in the if. All right, this right here, cell C6 is greater than or equal to this cell right here, which is an absolute cell. Then we want to give the person an E, which is also absolute. And then another if. Over here, I could simply pass in F as the value if false, but I don't want to do that. I want to pass F in as part of the criteria, and then when I'm done, what I will do is I will simply make sure that no one can enter a value between a value which is less than 0, which is a negative value, and also a value which is more than 100. All right, so we will use data validation to do that. So I'll add the F value as part of the if functionality, or as part of the nested ifs, instead of using it as the value if false. So let me just demonstrate that. I could simply say when none of these conditions are met, then the person should get an F. Then the person should get if C6 is then this, else then we want the person to get an F, all right, which is absolute. This will work fine, but the problem we are going to have is if I think I have. All right, this should be fine. Okay. Now, if we have 20, we have an F. All right, if it works, but what if we have -2? We still have an F. What if we have 103? We have an A. All right, we don't want this. Okay, we don't want this. So what I will do is I will simply add another nested if, and then add this the zero. Sorry, C6 is greater than or equal to 0. Then we want to give the person an F, which is absolute. Then we want to give the person an F, which is also absolute. All right. Then if none of these happens, then what should we do? We can simply pass in a message to say enter the correct number or something, but we don't want to do that. I will simply give it a validation, and then that validation will do all the work for us. All right, so I can simply say nothing should happen, and then I can close all my brackets. So we have a black bracket, so that is the end. I press enter, and then I have my formula nicely here. All right, so now what we can do here is we can simply copy the formula and then apply it to all the other grades. All right, so I will simply copy this formula and then paste it here. And then what Excel does is immediately you copy the formula from here and then paste it here. It simply changes the first cell, which is cell C6, which is right at the left side of the grid. It changes it to the math, which is also at the left side of this grid. So Excel picks the pattern for your formula, all right, for pasting your formula, and then Excel applies that pattern. So it does all the work for you. All right, so you can simply copy this and then paste it here as well. We can simply paste it here. Let's just copy it again and then paste it here as well. All right, so I think it looks fine. So let's check. This is E6, which is here. It's fine. We have J6, which is here, which is also fine. We have I6, which is also fine. All right, so I think our formulas are good to go. Let's enter some scores here. Let's change this back to 85, which is an A. Let's say math is 67, which is a C. That's fine. We can say 75, which is a B. We can say 31, which is an F. All right, let's see. Let's do 50 and C. We have a D. So it means it's working perfectly. All right, so we are done with our formulas, and then what we can do is we can simply autofill. All right, so let's see. All right, let me delete these two columns right here. Let's see. Oh, it deleted all my columns. All right, let's just autofill. So we have this. Okay, we can simply autofill up to this point. We have this. Let me just finish adding the name and the names, and then do the autofill. So we have Hina, we have Raju, Sanjay. We can simply copy with the index numbers and then paste them here so that. All right, so we can simply paste them here as values. All right, so it's fine. We can paste them as values, and then it works nicely. So we can simply autofill this. All right, you can simply double click the plus, and then it does the autofill for you. All right, so it looks great. Let's do 50 again and see we have a D. It looks nice. So you can simply go through the formulas. If it works fine for you, then you don't have any issue. All right, mine works great, and I will maintain it this way. All right, so our grading system is coming together. Let's copy the scores and then paste them here. Let's copy this That is for maths. We can paste them here. We can simply copy science, paste science here. We do for social studies. All right, so you can simply see that it's all coming together nicely and it's looking good. So let's do the calculation for our statistics. All right, first of all, let me all right, let's finish with the calculations and then we format them nicely. All right, so we have the statistics section here, so I will simply say statistics. There is a space between them, so statistics, and then I will simply copy this and then paste them here as values. Then I can simply merge and center this. Merge and center. All right. Now what we are going to do is we are going to check, or we are going to count for each. Let me open this so that we check from here. We are going to count for each of these subjects. All right. When we pick English, we are going to check all those who had grade A in English and then put the number here. We are going to check for B, we put the number here. For C, we put the number here. D, E, and F. All right. So with what I have here, let me change the values for English. Let's see. Let's give someone an E in English. All right. So to give someone an E, we have to enter a value between 40 and 49. So let's do 42. And then you can see automatically our data updates. We get one person for an E. All right. So that's exactly what we are going to do. So we are going to check for all these numbers. We are going to do the same thing for math. We check number of students who had A in math, number of students who had A in science, which is 6. You can count from here, and you can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All right. So it looks great. We can do that, and then we are also going to have the totals right here. All right, so let's kick in. So we are going to use the formula called countif, and what this formula does is it picks a range, and then in that range it will check for a certain criteria, and if that criteria is fulfilled, it will just count the numbers for you, or it will just count whatever criteria you gave it. It's gonna count for you. All right, so let's try it. All right, so we simply do equal count if. Again, if you forget any formula, if you want to enter any formula and you forget, you simply have the formula bar. You come there, you can go to insert functions, and then you can have all your formulas here. All right, so I have the most recently used. I can have all my formulas here, and then you can see I have all formulas. If I need a certain formula, I can just say for counting, press go. Let's see if I get. All right, so you can see I have some results. I said counting, and then you can see Excel gives me all the functions that I can use for counting. So if you need a function to do anything, you can simply come to insert function, type whatever you want to do, maybe adding values. You can simply say adding, you press go, and then it will give you all the formulas for adding. All right, you can get the mode, you can get the rank, you can get almost all formulas for making some form of additions. All right, to give you relevant formulas. You can say subtract or something like that. You can say divide. You can simply say counting, and then you get it. So when I say counting, I'll get various formulas, and then you can see we have count if here. All right, simply means we can use it, and when you click it, you will get the description right here. So that was just a quick tip. So let's do equal count if. We have count if right here. All right, I press the tab, and then what it's expecting is a range. All right, it needs a range. Why does it need a range? It needs a place to look for these values. It needs a place to count from. Where do we want it? We want it to count for all the A's for English, and this is for all the grades in English, and they are all right here. So we can simply select this range right here. All right, So after selecting the range, we can simply do a comma, and then what do we want to check for, which is the criteria right here. The criteria is to check for an A. We can do an A like this, just like I showed you before. You can simply type in values by yourself, but I don't want to do that. I want to use cell referencing so that when I make changes in the future, it will be updated. So let's use this and then do a quick demonstration. We use an A, we press enter, we have 4. What if someday we change this to a B? Let's check, no, an A right here, and then we have 4. So let's see. What if we change this to a B? No, we change this score right here to 70. Okay, it reflects, all right, but I still don't want to use that. All right, so let's maintain the cell referencing. I don't want to go deep into this. It might take time. Let me just use the cell referencing, which is a very nice way of designing your Excel sheets. All right, so let me use this cell right here. And then again, don't forget to make sure it is absolute because we don't want it to change. So we can simply do this, and then we press enter, and then we have our grade for English right here. All right, so we can do the same thing for maths. Equal count if. Let's check the maths range. We have the maths range right here. We can simply select the range, and then if this range, if Excel should check for this range, and then when it checks, what should it check? It should check for an A. All right, and then we make sure we make it absolute. We close it, and then we press enter. All right, so that is fine. We can do same for science, for social studies. Then we come and then sum up to get the total. All right, so we can do same for B by counting if. So we can simply do equal count if, like I did for here for this section. All right, but let's see if I try to autofill. I don't think we need the absolute cell referencing here, because if I autofill, the values have to be generated dynamically. So if I make it absolute, I'll not get dynamic values. All right, so let's see if it's, yeah, I think this works. B is 2. Yeah, so this works. So you don't need to make it absolute. If you make it absolute and then you do the autofill, it will simply still use the grade A, but we don't want that. We want it to pick grade B, grade C, grade D, grade E, and then F. So we need dynamic values, so we don't need to use an absolute cell referencing. So we can simply do the same thing here. No, we have absolute here, so let's change it. So let me do like this for you to understand what I was just trying to say. You can see we have 5 all over the place, all because it's still picking A grade, but we want it to pick B, C, so we don't need to use the absolute cell referencing. So let's clean this and then override what we just did. All right, so we have our data correctly, so we can simply do another count if, and then we are doing for science. So this is the range for science, and then we can do an equal comma, then we give it the criteria, which is this cell right here. We close it, we press enter, and then we can simply autofill. All right, we can do the same thing for social studies. This is the range, comma, then this is the grade section. We close our brackets, and then we have for social studies. So we can simply autofill this right here. All right, and you can see we only have grade A here. So if we change any of these from 80 to 65, we should get the A should change from 9 to 8, and then we should get 1C because we have a C here. Similarly, if we change this to 35, we should have an F. All right, so we now have dynamic data. So we are now at the total section. When calculating the totals, you have two options. You can simply use countif, but this time you check for all these cells. All right, you check for all these cells. If there is an A or if there is a B, you check for that criteria. You use this all these cells as the criteria, so that will work. And then you can also simply add all these together. So let's try the first method, equal countif. Then let's simply select all these grades, okay, all this range. Then let's do A. Then let's close the bracket. Then you can see we have 21. So when you put all these together, you should get 21. So let me use the sum function here as well. So equal sum. Then let's pick this range right here. Then close the bracket. And then you can see we have 21. So we can simply autofill both, and then let's see the results. You can see we have the same thing. So you can use any one of them. All right, so I will maintain the countif because it's already under the totals, and then get rid of the sum. All right, so it's all coming together. Let me start editing my Excel sheet so that it will look nicely, and then I'll include the charts. All right, so the first thing is we need to merge this from here to here. We simply merge it. All right, let's change the background color to this blue right here. Which shade of blue did I use? I think I went with, I can't find the shade of blue that I used. All right, so I will simply do this. Let me open it just a little. Then change the text color to white to make it nicer. Let me bolden it and then increase the font size. All right, so yeah, this should be fine. All right, so let me simply do this as well. Merge and center. Then bolden the text, change the text color to white, and then change the shade of blue to this. All right, so let me open it, change the font size, close it just a little. All right, so it looks good now. All right, so I can simply change the background color here to this color right here. So it also looks good. All right, so now we can import our logo. I made this logo using Office Publisher, so it's very simple. It takes less than 30 seconds to make. You simply need to use a word art. All right, so I'll import this logo right here and then resize it. I'll also do a quick video on how to make such a logo. So check the description and make sure you subscribe and then hit the notification button so that you get future updates. All right, and if you have any questions concerning the formulas, concerning how to do stuffs, just don't worry. Just make sure you put it in the comment section and I'll address it. If you have any other project ideas or assignments, you can ask in the comment section and then I'll give you ideas, or I will do a tutorial on how to do it. All right, so let me okay, let me give it this shade of blue. I simply want to have a very nice, good looking Excel sheet. All right, I'm not getting the actual colors I used, but I can still go with any color, and I just hope it all comes together nicely. Okay, let me go with this, and then I'll use the deepest shade of blue for this. Then text color white. Let me make the text color white here. So let me just copy the formatting. So copy this formatting. Right, and then simply copy the formatting for this also here. Right. Right, so it's looking good now. I think it's all coming together. I think it looks okay. All right, it's not the same, but it looks okay. So let me simply increase the row height by going to format, format row height, and then change this to 25. Okay, now I have enough spacing. All right, I'll also add some lines in between the tables. The lines are not looking good enough for me. So these lines, yeah, these lines will do. All right, so we are going to generate our charts. We're going to generate our chart for this data. All right, and our chart is going to be our chart is simply going to be based on these statistics. You can simply generate a chart for anything. All right, we don't need to generate a chart for this range because it's just a grading system. All right, so we have the statistics for all the results here, and then we are going to generate a chart for it so that you can someone who wouldn't understand our data here can simply look at the chart and then get a brief understanding of whatever that we did. All right, so to generate the chart, let's simply copy the data, go to insert, and then Excel already has the charts right here. So under this chart section, we are going to use the pie charts. All right, so let's go with this, and it looks good. So we can change the layout right here. It has a lot of predefined styles. We can go with this. It looks nice. We can go with this, which gives you some form of animations or something like that here. So let's do this. This looks nice. And then what we will do is we can simply change the color theme to a different color theme. So we can simply change to any color theme that we want. So I'm going to maintain this same color theme. And then what I will do is I'll change the fill color. You can change it from here at the home section, or you can go to format and then change the fill from here. All right, either way works. So let's change the format to this is the right color that we used. So you can see our chart looks good. All right, so it looks great. Let's just resize it to fit our data. All right, so we have a nice looking Excel sheet. All right, so this is what we did at the end of the day. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope you learned a lot from it. We have the whole chart right here. If you don't want to include a certain component in the chart, let's say you want to exclude math, you can simply click this right here. You right click and then you go to okay, let's go to select data right here, and then you can simply uncheck English. If you don't want it, if you don't want math, you can simply uncheck it. If you want to do any editing here, you can simply edit them. You can uncheck math, press OK, and then you can see math has been unchecked. So that's how it works. All right. So what I would do is I don't want to uncheck math, so I'll go back and then add it. But what I will do is the values here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 here, that is not what we want. We want A, B, C, D, E, and then F. All right. So these values are represented by these 1 to 6 values. So we don't want, we could simply copy this as part of the data right here, but let's simply do that here. And then we can select this range. All right. And then dynamically, Excel will use that range for your chart. All right, we press OK. Let's press OK again, and then it looks great. All right, so now we are done with our data. Remember when we started, I showed you how I hit all my formulas. Let me maximize this. You can see I've hidden all my formulas. You can't see anything. And also, if you enter something more than 100, It works surprisingly. I'm not sure if I didn't implement it, but I'm going to show you how you can do that. So what we are going to do is we are going to restrict it so that you can't enter a number more than 100. So let's say when we do 150 right now, you can still see we have an A. We don't want to accept a value over 150. All right, so let's do that quickly. After that, we are going to hide the formulas so that no one can edit them, no one can touch any of these except only the values here. Let me minimize this and then we start. So the first thing we are going to do is to do the data validation. What data validation does, it applies a certain set of rules to our data so that whenever we perform actions on our sheet, those data or that data is that rules are applied to whatever that we are doing. All right, so we can't simply do anything that we want. We are restricted because we have sets of rules guiding us, and those sets of rules are done with the use of data validation. I'll also do a whole tutorial on data validation. It's a little broad. It can do a whole lot of stuffs, and you should check that out. I'll put it in the description. If you haven't subscribed, make sure you do so. All right, so we are going. We will apply it. The data validation will be applied on the values here. Why? Because we don't want someone to change these values here. All right. So what we could have done is we could have just done the data validation at the beginning of the tutorial so that as we add our data, Excel will simply apply those validation to the next cells. But now we have entered all these data, so what I will do is I will copy all these cells. If you are now working on your Excel sheet, you can simply use, definitely don't need to add the data now. You can simply do all the headings. I added it for demonstration so that whatever that you do on the first row, Excel will apply it on the rest of the rows. I didn't do that, so I'm simply going to copy all these. Hold control. Let me copy this as well. Copy this as well. Copy social studies. I think, all right, I think that is fine. So I can simply go to data and then data validation, or I could just apply it to all the cells here. It doesn't matter. You could do it in any way because either way you don't want anyone to touch these great values. So you can simply add it there and it wouldn't make any difference. But I'm not gonna do that. I'm simply gonna select and then do data validation right here. So what I'm saying, you can simply select all this range right here and then apply it and it will still give you the same thing. All right, so what do we want? Immediately you open data validation, it will take you to this settings, and then what you can do is you press this arrow. So what are we checking for? We don't want people to type a number more than 100 and then any number below 0, which is a negative number. All right, so how do we do that? We have a lot of options here, but we will select whole number. All right, we are performing it on a whole number. You can also use lists. All right, but we are performing it on a whole number. So the data we'll be using in between, you can use any of these criteria if you wish to, but we want it to be in between two certain numbers. All right, so let's set the minimum value. So what minimum value can someone enter in these cells? The minimum value someone can enter is 0. All right, that is the minimum score you can get. All right, or 0 or this cell right here. All right, this is the 0 cell, so you can simply click on it and then use the cell number right here. Again, remember cell referencing. As I told you, you can use this right here. All right, so that whenever you change the value here, it will affect whatever that you have done. You can't track everything you do in Excel, so when you are doing it, you do it the right way so that in future you don't have problems. All right, so we use this cell number, and then we don't want the cell to change, so let's make that absolute. All right, so that we don't have any problems either. So the maximum number you can also get is 100, so we can simply press that and then make it absolute, and then let's see if that works. All right, so Now let's sorry, I forgot to add one thing. Let's go back to data validation, and then I want to add an error message, an error alert. So make sure you come to this error alert tab and then check this arrow right here. Immediately you check, you can see the boxes are active. And now let's type a title for our error, and the style of the title is a stop. You can give a warning and an information. A warning will not stop the person from entering, but will simply give the person a notice that, hey, you don't have to type in here. You can also give the person an information that don't type in here, or don't type a number above this value. But we simply don't want to accept it at all, so let's use stop. And then the title is let's do this error message, wrong value entered. Please, let's do please, no please, let's just say enter a value between 0 and 100. All right, it's not just a value, it's a score, so let's do score. So now we can press OK, and then our data validation has been applied. All right, so let's try to increase this score from 70 to 105, and then let's see 105. We press enter, and then it says we have our wrong value entered error right here, and then it says enter a score between 0 and then 100. You can keep trying as much as you want. It's still not gonna work unless you edit it back to either 100 or anything below 100. So let's try to enter 0 here, and then let's see. Okay, no, sorry, I entered it at the wrong cell. Let's enter it right here. Enter, and it works. It means I did something wrong somewhere. Okay, so what I'm just gonna do is I'm just gonna apply it to all the cells. All right, I think I left something out, or I copied something wrongly, so I'm just gonna apply the rule to all my cells. Yes, wrong value. Let's apply these same settings to all these cells. Okay, so now let's try again and then see. 101. Okay, let's do 0. Okay, I didn't do anything wrong. It's just that 0 is the minimum value. That is why. Again, I forgot that as well. So let's do a -1, and it's not gonna accept. All right, so I was right the first time. The value was 0, and it should accept 0 because 0 is the minimum number. All right, so let's see what if we change this 0, the minimum, from 0 to 1, and then now let's edit this to 0. Let's change this to 0 and then see if it accepts it. Now it doesn't accept 0 because 0, it's now below 1. That is why I wanted you to use the cell name instead of the value. All right, so that dynamically your data changes each and every time. So it looks great. We don't need to enter anything here. So although we have applied our data validation in this cell right here, it doesn't matter because we are not gonna enter anything there anyway. All right. All right. So what we can now do is we can simply lock. Our formulas and then hide them. Okay. So this is how we are going to do that. Let's simply copy the formula section. Again, if you are doing this data from scratch, you don't need to enter all these before you apply all these rules. You have to apply them before you do an autofill or you add the rest of the data. All right, so that you wouldn't have to copy it poorly like I'm doing right now. Let's right click, go to format cells. All right, and then you will be on this tab, number tab. Make sure you are the protection tab. All right, then you can say logged, which means you can't do anything there, and then you can also check the hidden. All right, and then it gives you a message right here. It says locking cells or hiding formulas has no effect until you protect the workbook. And it says under the review tab, protect group, protect sheet button. So we have to activate that before it works, else it will not work. All right, so let's press OK. let's also lock all these because we don't want anyone to mess up with them. You can simply go to cells, do that as well. We can simply apply the same rule here. All right, so now what we can do is we can simply go to review, protect workbook, and now we can set a password for it. All right, and then you can simply determine all the actions a person can perform and not perform, but we are not gonna go there. We can simply type, we are simply gonna type in our password. So mine is 123 1234. Let me do that again. 1234 1234. All right, so now you can see all our formulas are hidden and you can't see them. All right, there is no way you can see them. The only way you can see them is to unprotect the sheet, and immediately you unprotect the sheet by typing in your password, which is 1234. You get all your formulas back. All right, so that is how it works. You can see we have all our formulas back. All right, so this will be the end of this tutorial. If you want to see more tutorials of such videos or such topics, or you simply have your own topic, you are interested in a certain topic, just put it in the description, in the comment section. Sorry, I'll check it out and then I'll make a video and then post it for you. All right, thank you very much for staying tuned, and if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Click the like button so that it will motivate me to do more videos.